I am so excited to share my latest resource, downloadable print your own flashcard decks. These have been created following my many years working with children of all abilities in the clinical setting, and my themed flashcard decks work. The kids love them because they're engaging and they encourage movement, learning, coping skills, and just plain fun. From dinosaurs to Halloween, each deck includes suggested and themed centering techniques, warm-ups, guided meditation, relaxation, yoga-based movement, and games. Each card in the deck includes multiple yoga-based practices to choose from, meaning you can enjoy a different experience each time you play, and there will always be something that's suitable and accessible for the child you are working with or the setting you are working in. These are highly adaptable tools, and they work in the classroom, hospital, office, or home setting. Download and print on card or paper stock of your choice and enjoy creative, adaptable, and accessible adventures for many years to come with children of all abilities and in all settings. I promise you will not regret adding a set of 2 of these to your resource collection. And keep checking in. I have created a lot of these decks over the many years I worked in the clinical setting with children of all abilities, and I'm slowly updating and releasing them to the public so that all children can benefit from these wonderful tools. Hi, I'm Lisa Roberts with Yo-Yo Yoga School, introducing session 25 of Movement, Meditation and Mindfulness, a training program for pediatric professionals, educators, and parents. Session 25 will be covering yoga-based restorative stretching for children. So it's a passive style of stretching, and today we're going to delve into poses and stretches that fall under the categories of back bends and forward bends. So just a quick review from our previous session where we explored and introduced the concept of restorative style stretching. We're just going to go through the benefits for children. And I will add that this is not just for children. The benefits of restorative style stretching are for anybody at any age. It is highly therapeutic and very, very relaxing. Calming and centering for both the mind and the body. So you're doing something good for your body as well as your mind when you approach this style of passive stretching and supported stretching. That's key, that the body is fully supported. So it is able to let go and really relax and let go of physical tension. It also lowers the heart rate, blood pressure, and cortisol levels. So cortisol is that hormone that is released when our adrenaline is running high. And that's typically when we have the fight or flight response going. And that leads to my next point. And the next benefit is that we help to balance the autonomic nervous system through this passive restorative style stretching. The message is sent via the nervous system once the body is supported and able to relax and supported in a place where it can fully relax and the mind can relax. We deactivate our fight and flight response and start to activate our parasympathetic nervous system, or the rest and digest mode. So these body positions can also help to encourage slow, deep breathing, and it just encourages a very deep sense of relaxation for both mind and body, and that can lead to improved quality of sleep. So, some enhancements. I've got a lot of props around me, as you can see, and we're going to go through these as we explore the different poses I'm going to be demonstrating today. And I'll also be discussing some options and alternative props. If you don't have traditional yoga props, you don't need those at all. There's lots of alternatives. And in fact, working with children who can be different size, often the traditional props just don't work. So having that outside of the box outside of the box thinking available to you of what alternatives you can use can help you creatively adjust props so that your child can be fully supported and benefit from this practice. The worst thing you want to be doing if you're trying to encourage somebody to relax in a restorative style yoga posture is to have a really awkward, uncomfortable prop, because it just doesn't suit the body. So really, that's the most important thing, is that as comfortable as you can possibly be. So how else can we enhance that experience? Dimming the lights and drawing the shades. Putting a D&D sign on the door, and of course silencing the phone or putting D&D on the phone as well. Music can help. So some suggestions. You don't want lyrics or anything that can distract you or take you away. For my teens and tweens, I do often, they still want pop music, so I'll find mellow instrumental covers of popular songs. There's Disney instrumental soundtracks. Of course, just some classical piano or some spa music works as well. Also nature sounds. So there's lots of apps where you can get different melodies and sounds as well. So just finding what works for you as a teacher or a parent, and also what works for the taste of the child that you're working with, what they find calming and soothing. A lot of children I work with elect not to have music at all, and that's fine. And that's another important point, is to always give choices, give options. Would you like this? Do you think this helps? And I often, when I work with kids, go, hey, you can try it, and if you decide you don't like it, we don't have to do it. We can omit that. So we can always change the music. We can always turn the music off. You know, for example, if it's an eye pillow or socks or an extra blanket and they're not sure, we just have it on hand, and if they change their mind and they want to use it, they can. Or if they start and use socks or an eye pillow or music, and then they decide, oh, this is a little distracting, or this isn't for me, we can change that. So it's always allowing that choice and option, and providing options is very, very important to keep in mind as well. So we talked about eye pillows and socks and an extra blanket. So having that on hand, because as I mentioned earlier, the blood pressure drops, the heart rate drops. When you're relaxing, your body temperature can also drop. So having a blanket on hand, just so for it to be cozy and warm, so again, not distracted from the peaceful sense of peace that you get in a restorative pose to enable that deep relaxation. For some children, a weighted blanket can help, and that can just help also by providing that sensory input, telling the nervous system, hey, it's time to calm down, it's time to relax. That gentle pressure that's applied by a weighted blanket can also aid relaxation. Aromatherapy is another tool you can bring in. I can't stress highly enough that it's so important to research contraindications. Make sure whatever you're bringing into the session is safe for the person. And if you're not sure, then don't use it. Also, just ask for permission again, because so many people are sensitive to smell, and you really want to make this an enjoyable experience. This is also a great opportunity to introduce breathing techniques and progressive relaxation. Guided imagery and imaginative storytelling help too. And this also helps as a tool to engage younger children, or children who may be challenged by being still. So because the long holds are very, I won't say very important, but they're conducive to relaxation, and they're pretty much a requirement of restorative style stretching to get the true benefits and to really allow the body to fully release. Longer holds are than a typical flowy yoga class or just a gentle stretching class are definitely more conducive to support and relax the body fully. So for 12-year-olds, I recommend 1 to 3 minutes. 12 and under, 12 and under, 1 to 3 minutes, and incrementally building on that time as the child becomes comfortable. 12 to 17, 3 to 5 minutes, and then 17 plus young adults, they can relax up to 10 minutes in each yoga stretch or yoga-based stretch. So I'm telling you this now because that's where the imaginative storytelling and the guided imagery and the progressive relaxation comes in. Because if that's challenging for a child, even 1 minute may be challenging for some children, then by engaging them and distracting them with a little guided imagery or a little story, or even in some cases with kids, I'll have a whispered conversation and we theme it around whatever we've called the yoga stretch. So it's bringing them into the story and engaging the child that way, and before you know it, they've held the stretch and gotten the benefits by holding the stretch for the recommended amount of time. So as always, as I say, we kind of trick our kids into doing something that's good for them, but in a good way, not in a shady way at all. So let's talk about back bends. What are the benefits of back bends? And we've reviewed this in previous webinars, but today we're going to look at it through the lens of restorative style stretching. So we're getting a nice supported stretch for the spine. The spine is lengthening and we're supporting natural spine flexion. We're gently, when we're bending backwards, we are stretching the front side of the body. So the thighs, the groin, the abdominals, the chest, the shoulders all get a nice opening, stretch, and expansion. So when we think about that, we're really able to correct any hunched shoulders or poor posture from leaning forward over computers, over smartphones and electronics. So we're getting all this beautiful stretch here. We're lengthening and flexing the spine, and we're directing the attention outward. So a lot of traditionally back bends, because of this, because we're bringing our attention outside of ourselves, they're considered to be uplifting and energizing. Now, how does that play into restorative style yoga if you want to be, when we're trying to relax? It works because, and I'll segue into the wellness support, supportive restorative style stretching, and particularly back bends, are very supportive for depression, fatigue, and of course for improving posture. But going back to the depression and fatigue, so if I'm really lethargic and I'm really tired, or I'm experiencing depression, I may want to get into a nice big energizing back bend like a wheel pose or something like that. That just may be too much for me. But this is a nice way, if you think of being depressed or being tired, you're kind of down like this. So this is a nice way to help bring that energy up and start to prepare the body to lift up a little bit, taking the attention outward, but still in a very supportive way, so it's not shocking for the body. While we're holding this back bend and drawing the energy out, so we're not just hunched in and hiding away from the world, we can still place an eye pillow, so it can still be nice and relaxing. It's not letting a lot of light in, but we're still energetically setting the body up to sit tall, sit proud, and open up to the outside of the world. So this is where it's very helpful for depression and fatigue. And we're still getting a little bit of that uplifting and energizing, if that makes sense. So let's look at some back bends. So we're going to start with extended supported bridge. So you can see this is a very mild back bend. We're using just a regular bolster here, and I'm going to demonstrate this. I just want to go through it in a moment. So you can see this stretches the entire front side of the body. And when you raise the arms up in a back bend like this, and even in a regular bridge, but also we're talking about extended supported bridge, but also in regular bridge, when you bring the arms up by the ears, it actually stretches the arms and shoulders, but you'll feel it. And if you try this and do this along with me today, you'll feel that it engages the quads when you lift the arms up over the head, because it extends that stretch and it lengthens from the psoas down the hip flexors and into the quadriceps. So you will feel that you stretch the front side of the thighs as well, just by raising the arms up. So we're going to talk about warming up. You don't want to go straight into a long hold. So even though it's a supportive and a passive stretch, you're holding the body in a position for a long time. And restorative style stretching is a combination of body position, supported by props, and gravity working together to gently and passively stretch the body while supporting it. So, and because these are longer holds, you can still get a little bit stiff and slow. So it pays, and it's very helpful to warm up a little bit. So I would recommend, if you're going into a little series of restorative style stretches, to perhaps do a nice gentle warm up, a little seated warm up or one on the back, just with some you know, rock and rolls, some windshield wipers, some shoulder shrugs, some cat-cows, some hip circles, lots of little ones that we've discovered in previous webinars on warming up. I recommend that. But for today, instead of showing you a little warm-up sequence and then going through these back bends and forward bends, what I'm planning to do is show you an individual warm-up, recommended warm-up, for each stretch that we're demonstrating. So we're going to do a little warm-up. So in this case, we'll do some bridge lifts, a supported bridge, and then we're going to go into our extended supported bridge. And what I would recommend for this particular, because we've called this rainbow, because the body is making like the arc of a rainbow. So the breathing mindfulness technique I'd recommend with this would be rainbow breathing. And that's where we, with every breath in, we breathe in the color of the rainbow, and we breathe in the quality that's associated with that color. So you could do some guided breathing with this particular restorative yoga stretch. You could also take that into progressive relaxation, where you send each color from the rainbow through the body in a progressive style relaxation, depending on the length of the hold. That's two ways you could engage a kiddo in this posture. Of course, you don't have to call it rainbow. You could call it something else and create a completely different story. And that's the beautiful thing about this practice and movement meditation and mindfulness for children. You are only ever limited by your imagination. And I know I say that over and over and over. And the reason I do is because it's so very true. And then I recommend to come out of each posture. In addition to showing you a warm-up today, I'm going to demonstrate some counter stretches. So in this particular one, we'll be doing coming back into supported bridge. We hold that for a moment just to reset. Perhaps windshield wiper the legs just to loosen up the low back and hips a little more. Then we lift up and remove the bolster and come into tiny seed. So let's get started. I'm actually going to flip the screen so you get a closer look at me. And for this particular one, I'm going to do a side view, just moving some of the props out of the way, making sure you can see. My dog was in here earlier. She wanted to play ball. That is not one of the props that we need. So right now I'm going to use just a regular size bolster. This is an adult size bolster. So for extended bridge, you could use, as you would in regular bridge, a block. And we'll talk a little bit more about using blocks in a moment and how to make those even softer. You could use a couple of pillows. You could use a pillow with a folded up blanket on top. Most important that it is supported. So, warming up, before I even bring my bolster, I've just got it within reach. But I'm coming down onto my back. Now, with bridge, because the hips lift up a little and that brings a little pressure into the shoulders and neck, we don't want any support under the head for this particular stretch, because that can change the alignment of the cervical spine. We want to keep the spine lengthening and a safe alignment. So you notice I even move my ponytail a little so that my ponytail is not disrupting my head contacting the floor. So my knees are in line with my hips, my heels are in line with my knees. And then I'm going to do some bridge lifts just to warm up. So I'm going to inhale, lift, and exhale, slowly lower down. Inhale, lift, and exhale, slowly lower. One more, inhale, and exhale, slowly lower. And now I'm going to place the bolster, sliding it under my hips. So I'm lifting up and then I'm sliding the bolster. So it's aligning under the sacrum, which is that small triangle bone, my pelvis. And I'm resting. So now this is supported bridge basically. And then we're going to go into extended. So I'm straightening my legs. And then on an inhale, I'm going to reach my arms up by my ears. Exhale, relax. And this is the pose. Now, if you needed more of a stretch, you could actually stack two bolsters. So it would give you much more height. It would be a much deeper stretch. But this is giving me a nice little stretch across my abdominals. I feel it in my groin. I feel it in my hip flexors and my quadriceps, and then taking it into my armpits and my upper arms here. Now, to come out of this pose safely, I'm going to release my hands, step my feet back in to supported bridge. So we're just starting in regular supported bridge for a reset. Then I'm going to gently windshield wiper my legs from side to side. And then I'm lifting up, removing the bolster, putting it aside, lowering back down, and I'm coming into tiny seat. So that's my counter stretching. And I'll slowly make my way back, and we'll see what our next back bend is. So this one I call Blissful Bridge. And again, any of these names, these are just the ones I came up with for these poses for today. And sometimes when I'm working with kids, I may use these names, but I've used plenty of different names. So today we're calling this one Blissful Bridge, and basically it's a supported bridge posture. It's a gentle stretch for the low back. It also releases any low back tension. Get a gentle stretch across the abdominals right there. You can see even here, you could imagine it just by looking at this illustration. And it can really help for abdominal cramping. So it's great for low back pain and tension. Nice for any, because that gentle stretch can help with any abdominal cramping that may be experienced. So for this particular one, to warm up, I do recommend rock and rolling, and then rolling bridge as well, like what we just did. The mindfulness, because we can focus on the belly here, would be some deep belly breathing. And then the counter stretch is tiny seat again. So, and I love this one because if I'm talking to a child, we may talk about what kind of bridge they are. Are they a troll bridge? Are they a draw bridge? Are they a bridge on a moat to a big, big castle? And even the belly breathing, as you're encouraging that belly breathing, that could be opening up the bridge to let a boat by and then closing the bridge as the belly comes down. So lots of fun ways to get into the imagination. I'm just giving you a couple of small examples to help inspire you to teach this creatively to children, to help them hold the stretch as long as they need to benefit from it. So I'm going to quickly change screens again. And for this one, I am going to use a block this time. Now, sometimes these blocks, they're foam. You can see there's different heights. But to make this a little more soft, you can always wrap it in a small hand towel. So I just have a small hand towel here, and that just softens it a little. Not that they're particularly hard, but you want it as soft and supportive as possible. So you want support, but softness at the same time. So rocking and rolling, we hug the knees in. You can hold on to the back of the shins or the top of the, the back of the thighs or the top of the shins. And we gently rock and roll along the spine just to warm it up a little and get a little bit of a massage. And then I will stop there, setting up for bridge again. And we'll do those rolling bridges. So we inhale up, exhale down, inhale to lift, exhale down, inhale, lift, exhale down. The last one, I'm going to inhale, lift up, and then I'm sliding my block that's wrapped in the towel under my hips. Now this one I'm going to take a little bit higher, so I'm taking it on the next setting. So now I'm going to lift that towel over. You see how I came up on my toes to create space to lift up? Then I coming back down and coming back down on my heels. So here is our supported bridge. Now you do have the option, as I discussed in extended bridge here, you could reach the arms up as well. And you'll feel that deepen the stretch a little in the hip flexors and the quads. Or you can keep the arms down by the sides and really emphasize this opening and tucking of the shoulders. And lastly, you could bring the hands to the belly and be aware of the belly and the belly breath. So this is supported bridge. And then to come out of supported bridge, you're going to lift, remove the block and the towel, and then come on down and come back into tiny seed. So I'm countering the back bend with a forward bend. This is, even though I'm on my back, reclined child, or tiny seed as I like to call it, is a forward bend. We're compressing the front side of the body and now stretching the back. Okay. So snoozing camel. This is super supported fish. And you'll see it gently stretches the chest. We've got a big expansion of the chest here. And it can help to relieve, especially with this little bolster under the knees, that just can help reset and relieve any tension in the hips or the low back. So to warm up for this one, snoozing camel, I like to do a rock and roll and a windshield wiper, then place the props in place. Because this one's called camel, we've got the two humps of the camel, one here, one here. I would do a breathing technique that pertains to water, so flowing water, where we're matching each inhale and exhale, just like flowing water. It's very graceful and easy and effortless. And then, of course, once we come out of this, and I'll show you this, you've got to get very carefully out of postures like this, where there's a bolster under your back. So there's a right way to get out of it, and I will show you that. And then I would recommend tiny seed just to reset after these little bends that we have in the body. So we'll flip back to a full view and we'll demonstrate this one. So I'm going to have a small pillow, but you could use a folded towel or even no pillow. And then I'm going to roll this towel up to go under my legs. I'm just making it into a roll. And then I am having a bolster handy to slide under my back. But we'll begin by warming up. So we'll do a couple of rock and rolls, massaging and warming the spine. Followed by some windshield wipers. So just gently rocking the legs from side to side. And then we will get set up. So first I'm going to align the bolster. And again, you could use a pillow. It doesn't have to be a big, thick bolster. For some children, a pillow this size would probably be all you needed under the back. So I'm placing that to go under my head and support, and my neck to support my cervical spine and head. And this will be, it's going to go across the midsection of my spine, mid to upper, so it's kind of under the shoulder blades. So I'm going to test it first. Typically I like to align my armpits across the top of the bolster. And then I'm placing this guy under my knees just to help lift the low back a little. And here we go, we're in our supported camel. And then here we could do a little guided story or imagery about where the camel is, and what his day has been like, and where he's been walking with his caravan, or as I suggested, the flowing water technique. Now, to get out of this, I'm actually going to bring my knees in up and my feet a little closer, and then just gently roll to one side. Press myself up and slide the bolster and the pillow away and the support. And then I'm going to come back down into a tiny seed. And again, we could rock and roll from tiny seed. So obviously I'm demonstrating these only to truly get the benefits. Holding these postures once you're set up, you will firsthand experience the release and all of the benefits. So I highly recommend, after watching this and getting the gist of how to set up, following my demonstrations, to actually go and do some practice where you do hold these for extended periods so that you can firsthand experience the benefits. Highly recommend it. Okay, so we have snoozing camel. Next we have sleeping chimpanzee. So chimpanzees are actually one of the few animals I found that sleep on their back. So I thought this was a fun name for a supported reclined hero pose. So this particular stretch, again, we're stretching the front side of the body, releasing the shoulders here, and we're getting a really great stretch for the hip flexor, the quadricep, and the psoas. I would recommend a cat-cow flow for this, just to warm up the body before we begin. And then because our chimp's sleeping on the back, I thought of a cute bear as well. Koala bears sleep in trees and sleep in all kinds of crazy positions. So bear breath, where we're really rationing out the breath, where we're breathing to a certain count in and a certain count out, is a nice restorative style breathing technique to introduce while holding this particular stretch. And that's a fun way to tie it into the animals that are just hibernating and sleeping. To counter stretch this one, because the knees, the position of the knees and the legs, and how that may affect blood flow to come out, I like to take a table and do some shin stomps and maybe some more cat-cows. And excuse me for opening something on my screen that should not be open. And some cat-cow and a tiny sprouting seed, which I will show you what that is when we get to it. So let's begin. I will flip again my screen so we get a full screen. So for this particular stretch, I'll be using 2 bolsters. And again, you may need to set this up differently according to flexibility. So I've got my 2 bolsters stacked and they're just flat on the floor. You could, if you needed to, make it an incline by using a block. So depending on the needs of the child, I'm not even sure what my needs are right now because I've had an injury and haven't been stretching as deeply as I usually do. So I may even need the ramp today. So we come onto our knees. The tops of the feet are on the floor. Knees are pointing forward. I beg your pardon, I did not do my warm-up. So we'll do a couple of rounds of cat-cow. So you can even do it sitting up here. So we get our alignment ready to go into this pose. So that starts with the butt right in front of the short edge of the bolster. So I'm going to come up from there and just do a couple of rounds of cat-cow. I usually do 3 to 5. Today I'm just going to do 2. And then I'm coming back. And then I'm going to lean back and rest. So my shoulders are opening. My chest is expanding. I'm going to rest my hands on the floor. Just the gravity here is really helping to stretch the front side of my chest a lot more. And we'll hold and breathe here. And for the counter stretch, you want to carefully come out and up. I'm going to push the bolsters back. And I would come into table, do some shin stomps, followed with some cat-cow. And then come back into an extended child's pose, or sprouting seed. So this is our seed, and the arms lifting out away from the body is the sprouting part, the sprout of the seed. So let's see which one we have next. We'll pull up the presentation. And lounging lizard. So this is a supported sphinx pose. And you can see, really focus on lengthening the spine, get an expansion for the chest, and also a nice stretch here for the neck, shoulder, and upper back muscles. Just make, oh, my pointer, there we go. So we're getting a little stretch here for the neck, shoulder, and upper back muscles. We're also strengthening the lower back muscles when we're doing a Sphinx style pose. Now, even though we're back bending, we talked about it being uplifting and energizing. This is a great way to get a back bend in, but if you wanted to encourage inner reflection and grounding, because we're not looking up and out, we're actually turning inward, but still getting the benefits of a back bend. So for this particular one, cat-cow child flow, which I will demonstrate. Breathing and mindfulness for this one, you could do something obviously that pertains to a lizard and a lounging lizard and what he's dreaming of, or how he can breathe all the way up his scales. I've called it elevator breath because that's what I've called it in all my past books and on my blog posts and in previous webinars. But it's a style of breathing where we imagine lengthening the spine on the inhale, like an elevator is traveling up the spine. And then as we breathe out, the elevator slowly lowers down, but we keep that length. So you could do that thinking of the lizard scales, or an elevator going up the lizard scales. So you can still tie it into your theme. But that's the kind of breathing technique I recommend here, because we want to really focus on that lengthening of the spine, even though we're holding a pose. And then I would counter this with sprouting tiny seed, the one that we just did. So we'll get started. We'll come to the props in a moment. So we'll do some cow, cat, table, child. And how we do that with the breath is inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And we'll do one more for good measure. Inhale, exhale, inhale, and exhale. So for a supported Sphinx, I'm going to use a bolster and a block. So I'm making my little ramp here. And you can adjust that. We've talked about this in previous webinars. You do not need to use blocks. You can use books. You can use folded up pillows as well. Firm. You can get firmer ones. So finding what works for you, and just being aware that you can use folded towels, folded blankets, bath towels, hand towels, beach towels, different pillows, different cushions, different densities, and finding what really works for you, as long as it's stable and supported. That's most important for safety. Now you notice I folded up a towel, and I'm going to show you why. Actually, I'll go without it first and demonstrate why we need them. So coming down onto the belly and resting my pelvis just in front of the short edge of the bolster. My fingers are spread wide, like I'm in a typical Sphinx pose, drawing the shoulders together, and then I'm resting the forehead down. Now my nose presses against the bolster. So just placing a towel to rest my forehead. And now my nose is not pressing against the bolster, but I'm fully supported in this Sphinx pose. And we just hold and breathe here. And then when we come out, the counter stretch, after we've held this for the appropriate amount of time, we just press back into child's pose with the arms extended out. So the sprouting seed variation. And we'll move these props aside. And we'll take a look at forward bends now. And again, this is a small sampling, and it's a good sampling of forward bends and back bends. But as we've discussed in previous webinars, there are so many different yoga-based stretches with many, many variations. And this is a really good starting point, but certainly not everything that's available to you. So forward bends, let's talk about forward bends for a moment. So it's the opposite of back bends, of course. We're gently stretching the back side of the body when we're folding forward. We're compressing the abdominal area, nice gentle compression. directing our attention inward. So that's calming and quieting for the mind. So wellness support for headache. When we come forward, if we have colds and allergies, it seems counterintuitive to come forward, but it can actually help to loosen up any mucus. So when you revert, you invert and then you revert, come back up, you'll find maybe keep some tissues on hand, but it actually helps to get things flowing. In some cases, if there's a lot of pressure in the sinuses, that may be uncomfortable. So certain forward bends certainly would not work, but the ones that do, and I'm going to demonstrate some today, are the ones that are more supported, not deep forward bends, but just enough where you get a little bit of a massage on the trigger points and pressure points in the sinus area that can help release some of that pressure. So they're very helpful for those. Constipation, gas, menstrual cramps, really good when we're doing some of those. Gentle is the key word. Compressions for the belly and forward folds. Of course, turning the attention inward and quieting and calming the mind is very good for ADD, ADHD, stress, anxiety relief, and emotional stability. So let's look at some forward bends. I'm going to begin with one I call horseback rider, and I call it that because it's just an assisted forward bend. We are using the strap like the reins on a horse. We've got the block added in here. That's not a necessity, and I'm going to show you both ways, with and without the block. So when we're forward bending like this, we're stretching the back side of the body, and so in this particular one, you can see we're getting a stretch for the calves, hamstrings, the lower back and the hips, and the lower, mid, and upper back and shoulders as well. So this particular stretch can provide relief for low back, neck, and shoulder tension, and we're also opening up and stretching the hamstrings and calves as well. So a warm-up for this particular stretch, I recommend pointing and flexing the feet, because when we point and flex the feet with the legs extended, we're getting a little warm-up and stretch into the hamstrings and the quadriceps and the calves. Happy feet, I'll show you what that one is. And then flowing river, it's just a nice warm-up to, again, get used to that forward folding motion, and holding it, we're just warming the body up, and using the breath with this movement just helps to loosen up the body, and each breath you'll find you go a little bit deeper, so then when you're ready to hold with the props, you can really release into the stretch and get strong benefits from it. So I like to, when we're doing a lot of the forward fold, to recommend bringing the attention to the back side of the body for the breathing. So a lot of the focus is here when we breathe, or the belly. So the awareness of the expansion of the shoulder blades and the ribs on the back side of the body on the inhale and exhale can really encourage deeper, slower breathing. And again, using the whole breathing apparatus. Coming out of this, for a counter stretch, I recommend licorice legs, which I'll show you what that is. It's kind of like happy feet. It's just a fun little name I have. Windshield wipers and seated tiny seat. So we'll begin. I will turn profile. So I have my strap. If you don't have a strap, then a belt would do, or a elastic band, one of the exercise elastic bands, or an exercise strap, or even a towel can work as well. So pointing and flexing. So I'm starting in what we call staff, which is a seated mountain pose. So I'm pressing my bum down, shoulders are relaxed, my legs are extended, hip aligned with the hips, so hip distance apart. And I'm going to inhale, point, exhale, flex, inhale, point, exhale, flex, inhale, point, exhale, flex. And then happy feet, just opening them out so they look like a smile, and bringing them back. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And then flowing river. I'm breathing in and I'm breathing out, rolling up like a river. Inhale, exhale. One more inhale and exhale. And you may have noticed, just on those 3 breaths, I got a little bit deeper into my forward fold each time. So I'm going to demonstrate initially without the the block. I've got my strap, and I'm holding my strap between my forefingers and my thumb. Feet are flexed, and I'm just going to slide the strap back. So I'm comfortable and not hunched up holding on. Nice and comfortable, but I have some resistance. Taking a breath in, and on the exhale, I'm going to pull my elbows in close and pull myself forward. So once I'm here, I may want to walk my hands a little further along the strap. And then I'm just going to let my upper body go and relax. So this is a very restorative. The resistance between my hands and the strap are holding, suspending my body in place. I'm getting a really lovely stretch on the back of my hamstrings and calves. So it's hard to keep the feet flexed when you're in a restorative style posture because you're letting go and you're concentrating on relaxing. You can let the feet flop out. So placing a block here, or the feet against a wall, you could do this stretch against a wall, can help you not to do that. So now my feet are going to stay flexed, and same thing, I'm gripping on, taking a breath in, I'm not gripping tight, and on the exhale, coming forward, I need to walk my hands a little further up my reins, taking another breath in, and exhale. So this is just really helping my feet to stay flexed without me having to effort. And that's really what restorative style stretching is about. It's gaining all of the benefits of traditional yoga-based stretching, but it's completely effortless and fully supported. So, oh, I didn't do my counter stretches. So I'm not going to change screens for this because I think you can see me enough. Licorice legs. We just wiggle the legs like little, like ropes. And when I thought of ropes, I thought of licorice ropes when I named this. So licorice legs. Windshield wipers, you can just do with the feet, or you can bend the knees and do windshield wipers. And then, of course, seated tiny seat. So let's see what's next. So treasure chest. This is the same kind of stretch, the same benefits, a gentle stretch for the back and the legs and the hips. Relieves low back pain, hip tension, and even neck and shoulder tension. The warm-up is the same. I even recommend the same breathing into the back, because we really can become aware of the back side of the body and take those deep, full breaths. Counter stretch is whale tail, which is basically windshield wiper. So a lot is the same in the setup for this. I call it treasure chest in this particular one. So you can see I've got a little prop under the butt just to help align the pelvis. And then we've got some folded blankets on top of the legs. So that's the treasure in the chest, and this is the treasure chest closed. And we're looking inward at all our treasures that we have inside of us. So that's a nice analogy for children to encourage kind of reflection and see the beauty inside of them. So I will, because these are the same warm-up and pretty much the same counter stretch, I'm not going to demonstrate that this particular time. So just a small folded blanket. So I'm just going to use the towel. I can actually do this without the extra support under the butt. And for today, I'm going to use a bolster for my treasure. So I'm just sitting on the edge of this, and it's just lifting my hips just a little bit, so that my pelvis is really just slightly tilting forward and aligned. And my feet are flexed, placing the bolster here. I'm going to breathe in. Got the top of my treasure chest as I breathe out and coming forward, and I'm just resting my forehead on the treasure. Now, you could fold a towel for the forehead, the same as we did in supported sphinx, or we could turn the head and get a gentle stretch for the spine, the cervical spine. If you do this, you must turn the other way and hold for the same amount of time. Another option is to stack the hands and rest the forehead on the hands. The stacked hands that just work just like the towel. They create some space for the nose. And then we slowly roll out, remove the props, and go into the counter stretch, which is the same as what we did for assisted forward fold or horseback rider, so I'm not going to demonstrate that this particular time. So, this is a favorite of mine, Snuggle Bug. So it's a supported child's pose. You can see this traditional child's pose or sprouting seat, as we've demonstrated earlier. And not only is this a forward bend, we're stretching the back side of the body, compressing the front, turning our attention inward, but this is a hip stabilizer. So a lot of yoga-based stretches have more than one benefit or can fall under more than one category. And this one in particular is it's comforting, it's grounding, we're lengthening the spine, releasing any tension in the neck, the shoulders, the low back, and the hips. So to warm up for this one, I'd recommend cat-cow, hip circles, and then going into our stretch. Nice and supported. Here we've got it on a bolster. Again, depending on flexibility, you want to be supported and comfortable, you could add a couple of bolsters. Here I'm showing the illustration with the head turned to the side. So we're getting, just as we did in the previous pose, a stretch in the cervical spine. This is optional. There's always the option to stack the hands and rest the forehead or place a towel. So I'm going to demonstrate that today. Again, the attention to be on the back, so breathing into our back. If we're a snuggle bug and we have wings, we could breathe into those wings. And then the counter stretch is licorice legs. Because again, we've got a lot of compression happening here. Sorry, just trying to get my pointer onto the screen. And the legs are compressed, the knees are compressed. We're sitting on the shins. So just to get that blood flow back in the legs can feel really, really nice. And the licorice leg or the licorice ropes can help to do that. So flip screens again. Well, very, very quickly, because we haven't done it as yet, I'll just do one round of cat-cow. Again, you could do 3 to 5 or as many as feels good. And then from here, coming back to table, I'm going to do some hip circles. So these are hip circles. We just move in one direction, making big circles with the hips. You can see you can take it into the shoulders as well. And then we're always switching directions. So we're going to switch directions. Make sure we're balanced and even. Okay, and then I'm getting my bolster. And I'm taking my knees wide. My toes are touching. And I'm bringing the short edge of the bolster. If you had a pillow, it would be the short edge of the pillow in towards just inside my knees. Taking a breath in, finding length in the spine. Exhale, coming forward into my supported child's pose. So here, this is where I would use my towel to create space so I can breathe, unless I wanted to get a little stretch for the cervical spine as well. And always remembering, switching, turning the other cheek, and spending the same amount of time with the head turned. Or, again, we could stack the hands or use the towel and just remain in a nice neutral aligned spine. And then, of course, coming out of that one, short hold for me after demonstrating. This isn't necessary, but a longer hold, the licorice legs would feel really, really good. Okay, let's see what our next one is. Okay, favorite of mine, snoozing king or queen. So this is snoozing bowing hero. So we see we're using blocks here. You could also use bolsters or cushions. This one is one that I was talking about. It's a mild inversion, coming forward like that, a mild forward bend, but using the right prop, just apply some gentle pressure here. So that can be really helpful if we have any built up sinus pressure. So we're releasing low back and hip area here. And we're getting a little bit of a stretch for the quads as well, and shoulder release. So cat-cow, child flow would be a nice one to start. Breathing into the back. This is very supportive here. And a counter stretch would be king on the throne or licorice legs. So of course, we're going to start with king on the throne, and I'll show you what that is before we go into snoozing king or queen on the throne. So I will switch. So the cat-cow child flow, just for a reminder. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Now today I'm going to use blocks for both. So I'm beginning, I'm on my knees, I'm placing the block between my shins and then resting here. So that just props me up and aligns my pelvis. So this is a hip stabilizing stretch, and I will be showing this next time when we do hip stabilizers and twists. Actually, this is one of the ones that's included. So this is king or queen on the throne. Snoozing king or queen on the throne, I'm going to use a block standing on its long side, but I'm going to cover it with a towel because I want it nice and soft when it's making contact with my forehead. So hands back, and we just rest the forehead. So you want to make sure this is positioned so we're not crunching. We're lengthening the spine as we rest in the forward bend. So the hands can just rest on the floor like I have them, or you can bring them back with the palms facing up. And this is it. This is snoozing king or queen on the throne. And then to come out, we slowly come up, reset as our king or queen on the throne. Probably feeling very refreshed after the king or queen's little nap. And then we'll do our licorice legs. Okay. And then bug on its back. This is actually a personal favorite of mine. So as we've discussed when I demonstrated the Sphinx, this is a non-traditional forward fold, but it's still a forward fold. It just is accessed on the back. And you can see, so instead of turning our attention inward, we're opening up to the outside world, but still compressing. So we're getting the compression for the front side of the body, still stretching the back side of the body, but we're not closed in. So this I would use for my kids that need the benefits of a forward bend, but maybe are a little bit introverted, maybe are spending too much time reflecting. I want to start bringing them out and opening them up to the outside world. So I would recommend this particular stretch. So it's basically reverse child's pose with a strap. Compresses the front side of the body. Nice hip and low back stretch. Relieves any tension from the hips and lower back. And the tension is directed outward, but you're still getting the benefits of a forward bend. Rock and roll, whale tail. That's a nice one for the hips. I would use those for warming up. So the massage along the back, and then the whale tail for the hips and low back. Back breathing for this one. We're compressing the front side of the body, so it's going to be hard to breathe there. So think of the back. And you also have that extra pressure being applied with the back making contact with the floor. And so as you breathe deeply into the back, the back's going to compress against the floor. So that's a nice sensory input to help really bring awareness to breathing into the back side of the body. Counter stretch, rock and roll, and seated butterfly. And I'll show that one because I'm saying fly and cruise. And what do I mean by that? I will show you once I've demonstrated it. So you need my strap. So this one is a little tricky. I'm actually going to demonstrate facing you because I'm actually, no, I'm right-handed, but I can do it this way. Okay, so I'm going to start by hooking the strap around my waist, and I'm going to loosely buckle it. So I'm using a yoga strap here, and I do recommend that for this particular stretch. Now remember, some children may be claustrophobic, so this may not be a good one to do with younger children unless it's your child or someone that you know and are very, very familiar with and you know their limitations. So I'm coming onto my back and I'm going to just loosen it up a little. I made it a little too tight. So I'm loosening I want to have space so I can hug my knees in and then place the strap around my knees. And see, I have this in a place where I can access it, so I can tighten or loosen it. And that's really important too, that you have the buckle somewhere where the child feels they can control it. Of course, you can help them. And then, so the strap is just holding me in place in my reclined child's pose. And you can make it tighter. I, for some reason, have done it upside down. I'll try and make it a little tighter for myself here. There we go. And this is one of my favorites. It feels absolutely yummy. And then to come out, you can release here or just loop the strap, come on up, and remove the strap. So there you have it. It's a nice little selection of forward bends and back bends that can be accessed in a very creative way and very, very supportive for children. So that's forward bends and back bends. It's a great introduction to those, and it gives you a great set to begin working with immediately. Next session, we'll be discussing hip stabilizers and twists that are restorative style stretches for children. I hope you can join me then, and I look forward to connecting with you very, very soon.